Those look good. A big salty clam would sure go great with this heat.
Here we go, it's the inaugural episode of Gotham Knights review, and it could be worse. I could have been watching Velma, and what did I make of it? The acting was not bad, no performance was either awful or very inspiring. It had nice cinematography, but not great effects or writing. This should come as no surprise. This series is from the network that gave us Batwoman, with many of the same creatives that gave us Batwoman, and rewatching this, heaven help me, it bears a lot of the hallmarks of Batwoman too. Now I look at this episode, they did it again. The men in this episode, every male character, does nothing apart from act as a whipping boy for the women. And the only shock in retrospect is that they let Batman die without him getting kicked in the nuts repeatedly first. And don't mind my voice, someone, I'm afraid, has given me the dreaded Lurgy. So like and subscribe if you want to cheer me up, or pray for me, as I have a bad throat and have been confirmed as officially Lurgy positive. For American listeners, the Lurgy roughly translates as cooties, but it's not quite the same. I prefer Lurgy as a word. Some words in English are great, like squirrel. Incidentally, hearing a Spanish speaker try to say squirrel is adorable.
Squirrel.
What was I talking about? Gotham Knights. It is all, on further reflection, very much in line with the message. There's a consistent theme of men bad, and any part of the Rainbow Coalition good. Cops bad, and the criminals are treated as the heroes. And it's also hard not to notice quite how stupid a lot of the writing is. People's character motivations and actions frequently make no sense whatsoever. It's hard to pick the worst offender between this show, The Mandalorian and True Lies, but it may be this, and it gets worse with repeated viewings. And the pacing is like the series is made for viewers with ADHD. There is too much material for 40 minutes in this episode, and that leaves no time to explore anything they do on anything other than just a surface level. And this is a shock, because on Rotten Tomatoes, the critics disliked this show more than the public did, and Gotham Knights is currently sitting on 18% from the critics and 54% from the public, which is odd. I feel the need to stop and point out that on Rotten Tomatoes, the critics reviewed Batwoman as 80% rated fresh. This is bizarre, because the two series are not materially that different. The show opens up with some backstory and a sweeping shot of Gotham in CGI that frankly doesn't look great. It introduces the character Turner Hayes, a boy adopted by Bruce Wayne after he lost both of his parents. There's an overly brief montage of the boy's life in a private school, fencing, having rowdy parties and wrecking Wayne Manor, which seems to be a bold move for an adopted child. Luckily, a mousy girl stops a vase being broken during the house party, but maybe him and Bruce have a great relationship. But I wouldn't know, because the programme shows none of it. Meanwhile, at stately Wayne Tower, 3 young ne'er-do-wells have broken in looking to rob the place, and this is supposedly the Joker's daughter leading them. They have been paid $100,000 to steal a gun from a safe in Wayne Tower, and they should have smelled a rat when they heard that's what they were expected to do. When they do realise the gun they've just picked up is still warm and smelling of burnt powder, they realise that the gun was used to end Bruce Wayne's life and send him flying out of a window at Wayne Tower. So realising that they've been set up, the Joker's daughter drops the gun with her fingerprints on it, and they run for the elevator. So yes, when you find that you've been framed for murder, be sure to follow the correct procedure and leave your fingerprints on the murder weapon in the middle of the crime scene. But the frame still wouldn't work, because none of these individuals would have gunpowder residue on their hands, so they would be fine if the cops were even slightly competent and not dirty. Sadly, all of the cops in this show are both incompetent and dirty. The police arrive to find Bruce Wayne's body with the Batman mask on, and for some reason Harvey Dent is there. And it's quite odd to have the district attorney on site as a first responder. Harvey Dent and Bruce Wayne in this show are supposed to be old friends, and Misha Collins tries his level best, When seeing the body of Bruce Wayne, he just ends up looking like he's sucking on a lime, and this all maybe needed more build-up. Some scenes of these two characters together being friends, they could have got a good actor to play Batman for one episode, and then have this at the end of episode 1. The cliche actor for Batman would have been Sean Bean. The ne'er-do-wells make a run for it, and we're on to a terrible fight scene. Sorry, the first of the terrible fight scenes. As they're running down a corridor, two cops come out of the elevator at the end of the corridor and shout freeze as they see them and draw their guns. The kids don't freeze, and the cops seem to have very unusual procedures in Gotham. One walks into punching range as the guy behind him decides to boldly put his gun on the floor. The two cops are helpless against girls half their size, and this fight scene is pure Batwoman. And it's not that a woman can't beat a man in a fight. It is possible, but pushing around a man twice your weight? No. That's just physics you've got wrong. Then the kids escape by taking one of the cops' radios and telling all of the other cops to cover the wrong stairwell, which, like idiots, they do. And it's no wonder, frankly, that there's so much crime in Gotham. The cops did not even bother to cover the exits of the building. The building's security also seemed to have completely disappeared. The kids then steal a cop car and drive off, so I'm guessing maybe in Gotham, the police cars don't have GPS either. The kids get away, and Harvey Dent goes to tell Bruce's adopted son about his father. And again, this doesn't carry much weight. It's all too soon, and these actors needed some scenes together before this to act as a foundation. Ideally, Harvey Dent, Bruce Wayne, and the son all together bonding. We do not know what has been lost by Bruce's death because the series never bothered to show us, so Turner finds out that his adopted father was Batman, and he's angry and disbelieving. It jumps to later with the adopted son and his female school friend, who's played by a 29-year-old actress. The son throws a decanter at the wall in rage, and the show is in such a hurry. They hear a dripping that leads them to a secret passage into the Batcave that is unfeasibly easy to find. There's a big gap under the hidden door, so there will be a howling gale coming through it at just about every point of the day. The passage can be opened by somebody leaning on it. So that's the Batcave found at the 10-minute mark of the episode. And I'm not angry, I'm just disappointed. So they go down to the Batcave, and how has nobody found the Batcave from the outside? There is light coming in through the side. All of that before the credits, and the title sequence isn't good either. We get into Batman's funeral, but it doesn't really have any emotional weight either, because we never even saw this Batman. I understand at one point this Batman was supposed to be played by Jensen Ackles until a scheduling conflict, and that would have been a lot better than what they did here. During the funeral, the cops find the ne'er-do-wells' hideout, and are again completely incompetent and do pretty much everything wrong. They split into two groups and come in through opposite sides of the building, so if either group opens fire, they're going to end up hitting each other. They come in with weapons drawn and don't use any of them. They have no non-lethal alternatives as far as I can see, again, and walk into punching range, again. And this is extraordinary considering what happens later. The cops, it turns out, were looking for a reason all along to get rid of these kids. They just had that reason and didn't take it. This show has a new replacement, Lady Alfred, who is doing a kind of shaky British accent. I've heard a lot worse. It could be Mr. Van Dyke in Mary Poppins, and sadly I can't use his first name without YouTube hitting me with the ban hammer, so I have to do this infantile business of tiptoeing around, so thanks for that, YouTube. Either way, the actress's accent slips quite badly in places, and I can hear either Australian or New Zealand come out. Meanwhile, the ne'er-do-wells are being interviewed by the police, and for the Joker's daughter, that hair really doesn't do her any favours. The actress is an attractive woman, and in this, she looks like she's been dragged through a hedge. It's amazing what a difference hair and a bit of makeup does. She barely even looks like the same person. She isn't a bad actress. Playing the Joker well, or a role like him, isn't exactly easy. The cops interview the other two suspects, and the show does that horrible, jarring representation scene.
It's history. Mom left. Dad couldn't beat on her anymore, so he turned to his kids. He didn't have a problem with bisexual chicks in his but having one under his roof was another story.
Cullen Rowe.
Really? Because your birth certificate says you were born.
Don't use his dead name. Look, I know what you're doing. Just building trust through performative allyship.
Yeah, or maybe I'm just not a dick.
And it makes no sense for Harvey Dent to behave this way. He believes that this person is responsible for the death of one of his oldest friends, and his greatest concern in this scene is seeing that one of the suspects in his friend's death is not dead named. Harvey Dent's big concern should be in getting justice for his friend who is now dead, not getting justice for one of the alleged murderers who was almost dead named. Turner and his friend Stephanie, meanwhile, meet up at school, and how come they aren't a couple? He should be at least thinking about it. And are we sure that that actress is 29 years old? Are we sure there's not been a mistake? Maybe it's the school uniform, but if I met her in real life and she came on to me, I'd run for the hills because I would worry she was underage. Her and Turner try to investigate Batman's demise using the computer in the Batcave. And the Batcave, now I think about it, it isn't a great place for a computer, is it? A cave, open to the elements, cold and humid, and if one of those monitors falls off of that desk, they're going to fall into a pond and short your electricity. They use the computer to try and find who paid the ne'er-do-wells $100,000 to off Batman, and her and Turner get an answer. The person's account that the money came from was Turner's. He's been framed as well. They do a jump cut to the next scene and Turner is already being arrested. Harvey Dent shows him a coin, allegedly a 6th century Athenian coin that his father had, and no it isn't. The coin is clearly too big and well made to be from the 6th century. The cops then throw him into a cell with the ne'er-do-wells, which makes no sense at all on any level. Why would you have the 3 suspects in a cell together, and the one the cops think pulled the trigger is denying it and saying she was framed? So the cops put the schoolboy, unattended, in a cell with 3 people that claim he just framed them for the murder of his father. And if he didn't plan it, these are the 3 people suspected of killing his father. And it gets worse, because in this world, apparently Batman, Turner's adopted father, killed the Joker, one of the suspects' father. Ergo, if this lot got put in a cell together, people would be getting fired from the police for gross incompetence. They have to come in and break up the inevitable fight, and in doing so, the 3 thieves steal items from the cops, which they can then later use to pick their handcuffs. Harvey Dent is confronted by the press, and one of them asks him, "As you are a friend of the Wayne family, will you be recusing yourself from this case?" And yes, as district attorney he really should. Him prosecuting this taints the case and almost guarantees that it will be thrown out of court. All 4 of the suspects that just attacked each other in the cells are then put into a van for transport to Blackgate Prison together. And also, this will make it easier for their inevitable escape. They pick the cuffs and easily beat the 3 armed cops inside the transport. And what use are the police's weapons inside that transport? It looks like it's armoured. So if any of the police fire a 9mm in there, it's probably going to ricochet around the inside of the van that they're all standing in. The escapees though still have the slight problem of the 4 police cars that were escorting the van. Luckily for them though, there are only 3 cops in the 3 cars following them, and the car in front of them seems to have no cops at all in it. The Joker's daughter tries to use the lead cop as a hostage, but Turner refuses, and the escapees are disarmed again, and now the police are going to murder them, because they're all dirty cops working for the bad guys. The lead cop then gets a batarang in the hand. The lead car, that probably still had police in it, gets blown up by an RPG, and the cops just stand around and don't murder the people. The sole purpose of them being there was to murder. The escapees then get rescued from the cops by Robin, who is now played by a young African American woman, and it's another terrible fight scene. The cops wait around to get kicked, and her costume clearly doesn't hide her identity at all, and it's the mousy vase catcher from the party earlier. The group then run to a hidden room in the school. During the escape, one of them stole the lead cop's watch, and it just so happens to have an engraving on the back that matches the engraving on the clearly not 6th century coin that Batman had, and the Joker's daughter luckily can identify this as belonging to the Court of Owls, a shadowy group of people who secretly run the city. Then at the end of the episode, not Alfred burns Bruce Wayne's will, and the Court of Owls sends someone to cut lead cop's head off. So that's it for episode 1, and my lord was that stupid.
Maybe it's time we set a little trap for Crystal Cove's knob stealer.